So, in this short video, I'm just going to share with you my journey to becoming a CRNA. And this is not about me, this is about you. So that hopefully I can help you achieve whatever dream it is that you hope to achieve. If your dream is to become a CRNA, hopefully this will help you get there. So, I started out as an accounting major at a local university near where I live. And to back up a little bit, I went to school at home. So I was a little bit underprepared to go to college. I did very poorly on my SAT. Technically, I did not even graduate from high school. I ended up getting a GED and then entered university on scholastic probation. During that first year, I ended up getting all A's and B's. I just studied my behind off. As you can imagine, starting university from being in a homeschool position, I had to learn how to study. I had to work hard. I had to develop grit and determination. I remember a lot of nights, just even on a Friday night, just staying late at the university because I had three younger brothers at home. So it was a little bit hard for me to study. Ended up graduating with about a 3.2 with a Bachelor of Science in Nursing. And actually, let me back up before that. Like I said, I started out as an accounting major. After about the first year or so, I just couldn't picture myself. I was sitting in an office, crunching numbers, looking at the computer, whatever. So I was thinking about what I wanted to do. And I started to think about nursing. When I was 17 years old, I was hit by a drunk driver. I was T-boned by a drunk driver. And of course, spent a couple nights in the hospital, had all sorts of facial lacerations and a Colles fracture of my left wrist, broken radius, and an ulna. And there were four friends in the car with me as well, and they all had various injuries. Thankfully, everybody lived. But I thought about what those nurses did for me, and I thought that was so cool. I changed my major, and I never looked back. And during my career, I actually started out on telemetry. I was there for about a year and then quickly transferred to the coronary ICU. And boy, you learn a lot real quickly. Very sharp learning curve. I was there for probably about 5 years or so. And then I worked in the cardiac cath lab and then ended up getting a job on the helicopter at another hospital in my town. So I worked at two different hospitals at the same time. Ended up working in the cardiac cath lab at one hospital and then worked on a helicopter in the other hospital. So I had two jobs at the same time. And I found myself, my wife didn't work outside the home at that point, and we had two boys. I found myself working 60, 70, 80, 90 in 1 week. Honest to God, I worked 100 hours in 1 week between the two hospitals. Strangely enough, also, one time I worked 5 shifts in a row. So I worked 10 hours in the cardiac cath lab, ended up working in the mobile ICU at night in an ambulance, hoped to get 2 or 3 hours of sleep, drove back to the cath lab, worked 10 hours. Then I went back to the mobile ICU, worked all night, and then went back and worked 10 hours in the cath lab and I never went home. So, not the best decision with young kids, but with my wife not working outside the home, man, we had bills to pay. So, anyway, CRNA program came to my state and I decided to apply for it. I didn't know much about CRNAs. I had never even heard of a CRNA. I thought only anesthesiologists did anesthesia. In fact, I've never heard of AAs. But to that point, I had not even heard of a CRNA and ended up shadowing a couple people and decided that that was something that I wanted to pursue. And having been out of school for quite a few years, I doubted my ability to not only get into school, but I questioned my ability to get through school. So it'd probably been at least 10 years since I've been out, or way more. And I had to take a statistics class to be eligible to apply. And so I took that during the summer. I worked all day and then I took my statistics class at night at the local university. I was right on the cusp of getting an A and didn't do as well as I wanted to. Got like a B plus in the class, but that was enough to get me in. I had a GPA of 3.2. I had plenty of ICU experience, high acuity ICU experience. I had the flight nurse experience, cath lab experience. But the thing that's going to get you into CRNA school is high acuity ICU experience. So I had that, had a GPA of 3.2. CCRN, the critical care registered nurse, was not required for my program, although it was recommended. But I had recently got certified as a flight nurse, the certified flight nurse certificate. That looked favorable. I ended up getting my letters of reference. I wrote my personal statement and had my shadow experience, which all met the criteria to get into the program. Had no idea if I would get accepted. I had no idea if I had what it took to get through that program. But just one step at a time, I was accepted. Even prior to that, I had to have the interview. So during that interview, I had to take a written test. I had to interview with the faculty from the program, which, there's like 5 or 6 of them, and they're all sitting in a circle, all shooting questions at me. And then I had to do a clinical part of it where they had a mannequin. They gave me a scenario of what was going on with the patient. And there was a group of them behind one-way glass. They could see me, hear me, but I could not see or hear them. But there was one person in there that I got to ask questions in terms of an assessment. Was the patient awake? Was their skin pink, warm, dry, pale, whatever? What was their blood pressure? What were they hurting anywhere or whatever? The blood pressure was reading very high via arterial line. What I did not notice is that the transducer was on the floor. And so finally, I discovered that, ended up bringing the transducer up, had it leveled. Now the patient's blood pressure was not high, the patient's blood pressure was low. And come to find out, the patient's septic, and then went on to treat the patient in that way. So anyway, I ended up getting accepted. The program's very challenging, but if you stick with it, study hard, have a mindset to get through it, and a positive attitude, and get along with your mentors, classmates, preceptors, and your faculty well, you will do well. Ended up obviously graduating, and here I am now 5 years out, and I can tell you it is the absolute best career move I have ever done. So when you're looking at a career, there's certain boxes that you want checked. What's the pay? What's the stress level? What's the hours? What's the benefits? All those kind of things. Work-life balance, all that kind of stuff. And I will say that, from being a flight nurse to cath lab nurse to ICU, I even did nursing management for a while. Those checked maybe 1 or 2 of the boxes in each of those positions, but I can tell you that becoming a CRNA has checked every single box, and it has been so worth it for me. I have not met one CRNA that has regretted going to school. So, if you are even thinking about going to CRNA school, I would say go for it. CRNA isn't for everybody, but if you're looking for more respect, if you're looking to only take care of one patient at a time, if you're looking at making a significant, if you're looking at working with your hands, because we're managing airways, doing nerve blocks, doing spinal blocks, all that kind of stuff. If that stuff is appealing to you, and you can typically, as a CRNA, work as much or as little as you want to maintain work life balance for your family. One other thing that has worked out extremely well for me is that my wife has stopped working so that she can give our family and our boys the attention they need. She's available, she's present. If I'm working during the week, she can take my truck in to get the oil changed or whatever. It's huge. The income does allow you to send your kids to private school if you so desire. It has really been amazing, been life changing. And if you're thinking about it, I would say the very first thing you should do is shadow a CRNA, because that will help you to determine maybe I want to do this or I probably don't want to do this. The CRNA is definitely, it can be stressful at times because you are managing a patient's life. You're putting them to sleep, and you are the only one that can wake them up. When you're doing anesthesia, you are the only person in the room fully responsible for that patient's life. So that's one of the things that you have to be willing to accept and maintain. So if you have any questions, shoot me a message. I love it. I cannot imagine where I would be if I didn't become a CRNA.